This show is brought to you by the All Pro Nation Radio Network. Be sure to like and subscribe and check us out online at allpronation.com, where fans have a voice.
All right, what is up, everybody? You are tuned in to the All Pro Nation podcast live here on the All Pro Nation Radio Network. I'm your host, as always, Chris Smith, and I got with me Tanner Weber. Tanner, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Chris. How's it going?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. Come on, when I ask you that, I need you to have a little bit more pep in your step, man. A little bit more pep.
I got to survive my last week of work first.
Your last week? Man, is it bittersweet?
It is bittersweet, actually. I'm pretty excited.
It's
and then I got a lot of packing to do and like a 21-hour drive, so I'm not looking forward to that though.
Yeah, that's gonna be a long week.
Yeah, it is.
For sure. Well, to take your mind off all the traveling you're about to do, we can talk a little bit of NFL football. How you feel about that?
It makes me much happier.
All right. So before we jump into the NFL, the Cavs and the Celtics are playing tonight. Who you getting in Game 2?
Game 2, I'm taking LeBron tonight.
Oh,
LeBron and the Cavs.
Okay, all right. I'd like to see the Celtics play spoiler again.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's going to be a really good series. I think LeBron's going to end up pulling it out in 7 games. As for the other series in the Western Conference, I'm going to take the Warriors in 5.
Oh, wow. So
too much firepower.
Yeah. Man, I was so excited for Houston, but man, just watching what happened last night was rough.
The ball movement, the Warriors actually looked like they were trying last night.
Yeah. And the Rockets came out hot, man. They came out
ready to play.
What is it about the third quarter that the Warriors are just so freaking great in the third quarter?
Just, I don't know, halftime adjustments, good coaching.
I mean, it is ridiculous, but yeah.
Let me ask you a question about the Warriors.
Okay, go.
True or false? Will the Warriors be beat in the next 3 years? Will they not win a finals?
Will they?
Because what do you got to do right now to beat them? They just have too much firepower. I don't even know if LeBron were to go somewhere else to compete with them, I just don't even know if he can still beat them. It depends, who he has around him. But say he were to go to the Rockets next year with Chris Paul and James Harden. I still feel like it's just not enough. There's just too many scorers on Golden State's team.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's just the offense, man. It's Golden. Yeah.
You can shut one player down. You shut Stephen Curry down. You shut Kevin Durant around one night or slow them down. Or Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, somebody else is going to be hot. It's just impossible to defend them. Their transition offense is really terrific too.
Yeah. And then not to mention Klay Thompson's working out a deal to stay in Golden State. If you would have asked me, he would have been the first one out. But because I think Klay Thompson is one of the best. I think he could go to another team and be the star instead of playing being in the background to Steph Curry and Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
but
who you got in the series? You taking Warriors and Celtics?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the finals. I think it's going to be Warriors Celtics. I'd like
today that LeBron
is
8-3. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like it to be Houston and the Cavs. That's who I'd like to see.
Mm-hmm.
Only because I would love to see. I think Houston's just a fun team to watch, and I'd like to see LeBron James get beat in the finals again. So there's that.
LeBron dislike. That's okay. We've been through this. I'm not really a big fan either.
Yeah, but back to the Klay Thompson thing. I'm just curious what your thoughts are So the reported deal that he's about to sign, it would be a $92 million deal. If he could easily get the maximum from another team, which is 139, meaning he's leaving $47 million on the table.
Yeah, I would bolt out of there. He's already got his championships.
It's 40. Yeah, I was about to say, is 47 million worth just a few more championships?
No, it's not.
I don't think so either. Like, you've won your championships, like, go make your money.
Basically, you just have to decide if you want to be a part of a dynasty and have your name like engraved in all NBA all-time greatness, or have the opportunity to make an extra $50 million. I'm taking the money. No offense.
Yeah.
That's just me, though. Maybe I'm greedy.
Yeah,
he could still go to a Western team and a team in the West and be competitive and have a chance next year.
Go to the East and then maybe dominate.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's strange to me, but whatever. He must be happy there. So it's what it is. All right. So the show tonight, we've got an interview with
Jon Ledyard.
Jon Ledyard. There we go.
Man.
So for those of you who are big into the draft, you'll know the name Jon Ledyard. We're gonna get to talk with him about some draft stuff. We tried to have him on the show last week, but it didn't work out in time for the show to be posted. So we're gonna be able to catch up with him tonight. So we will at the end of the show kind of drop back into a little bit of draft talk with him. But before that interview happens, we're just going to kind of break some things down, kind of discuss what is and what was this week in the NFL. Rookie training camp started. We have our first ACL tear of the year. And there seems to be some movement at the safety market. So what you want to discuss first?
I'm going to save my topic for last.
Okay.
I really don't have a lot of news tidbits this week. It's actually pretty poor. It's May. It's the off season. Mini camps are coming, but I got one topic I want to save for last because I'd just like to talk about it. But what do you got? Do you have anything specific you want to talk about right away?
All right. So one, we're just gonna not talk about rookie minicamp. Like,
boring.
Yeah, it is. Like, it is what it is, right? Like, it's just the rookies coming in, getting their feet wet,
getting familiar with the team, coaches.
Yeah, do not read much into what you see. I've seen so many headlines. Oh my God, this happened, and did you see this play? Oh, and being in Louisiana. Oh my God, JT Barrett might be the heir apparent to Drew Brees.
Oh, please. Is that really a topic down there in the South?
It popped up. Apparently, he was impressive in rookie minicamp.
It's awesome.
Do not listen to anything that is coming out in the media during rookie minicamp. It's just to kind of get rookies used to the NFL. That's all it is. So there's that.
Right.
So the next topic I had was the safety market. So Kenny Vaccaro.
Visits.
What's that?
Yeah, visits. A lot of visits this week.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Kenny Vaccaro is finally getting visits. What did he have? He had the Jets today, I think.
Yeah.
The Colts, and there was another team, wasn't there?
No. He had done the Dolphins a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was the third team, the Dolphins.
Yeah. So, but I mean, a couple visits in a couple days. I mean, this is what's crazy to me about the safety market this year is like there was no market. Like, and if you look at the safeties that are currently free agents, you have Kenny Vaccaro, Eric Reed,
Trey Boston.
Who?
Trey Boston's taking visits now too. He was a pretty good player for the past few years.
Trey Boston. Why am I missing this name? Denver Broncos.
I'm lost. He's still a free agent?
Yeah, what is his name? The veteran they cut.
I wasn't aware they cut anyone.
I mean, this was back when free agency started.
You got me lost, man. I'm sorry. I can't help you out here. Mike Mitchell's still available.
Hold on.
TJ Ward.
TJ Ward. God, there it is.
Oh, he played for the Bucks last year.
What's that?
He played for the Bucks last year.
Oh, he played for the Broncos the year before, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which is actually really crazy because he played like crap in Tampa Bay, but like in Denver, he was like a top 5 safety.
Yeah.
Like he was really good.
Yeah. That's what. All right. It's TJ Ward. I don't know why I was forgetting. That name was escaping me. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, there's some really good safeties out there. I mean, the biggest safety they got a contract this year was Kurt Coleman from the Saints. $16 million. The safeties were the only position on the team that did not have a player get like a $30-40 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
Just freaking crazy to me, because if you looked at maybe 10 years ago, like safety was one of the most important parts of the defense.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I think it's an extremely underrated position, and it's undervalued big time.
And what I think it is I think you have a lot of these like undersized linebackers coming from college. And it's like, okay, they're a little undersized. They're athletic as hell, but they're a little undersized, so they're not exactly the prototypical NFL linebacker, but they're quick, so we can move them to safety. And I feel like safety is just one of those positions that there's just a high surplus of them. I think there's a lot of young guys coming in every year that can play the position, and it just makes having to have a veteran safety that you pay a lot of money to unnecessary.
Yeah, I feel like most teams maybe are a little sketched out about adding safeties in free agency because there's a lot of one-trick ponies out there where there's a guy that's like strictly a box safety and plays down in the box with the linebackers like Kenny Vaccaro or Eric Reed. And then there's some guys like Jarris Byrd who is strictly like a free safety and just like a coverage guy. So I think a lot of teams right now, or even in the draft, are looking for safeties that can play both spots, free and strong safety at a high level. Yeah, I know that's really big in Minnesota's scheme. So,
and then to round out my third storyline, if you did not hear, Fozzie Whitaker, running back for the Carolina Panthers, has tore his ACL and is being placed on injured reserve.
First IR player of the year.
Yep, and we're gonna get about 20 of these before kickoff of the NFL season. So this is just the first one. There's gonna be plenty more to come. We'll talk about. We're gonna track them. And speaking of tracking, oh my God, I just thought about this. Speaking of tracking, maybe on the All Pro Nation podcast, we should gamble, since gambling is now legal. How many players are going to tear their ACL? I'm going to place the over under at 22.
Ooh, a record this year.
Over under.
Over.
Now before the first game. Before the kickoff of the first game.
Oh, before September 9th or whatever it is.
Yeah. Over under 22.
I'm still going to take the over.
Ooh.
I'm still going to do it.
Oh, man. That's bold. That
Taking
is
the
bold. And speaking of gambling, we are working with somebody right now that when the NFL season, a few weeks before the NFL season kicks off, running all the way through the NFL season, allpronation.com will have a fantasy podcast. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. If you're a big fantasy football player, there will be a fantasy podcast on allpronation.com. So that's pretty exciting too.
Oh, he is.
So what do you think about the legalizing gambling, sports gambling?
It's going to cause a lot of destruction. I'm not much of a gambler. I value my money. I feel like I work hard for it, so I don't like to spend it.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, what you got?
Jason Witten came out today and said that he thinks Des Bryant, his former teammate, is going to end up on the Packers.
I saw that.
But it has somebody did call Green Bay, and there has been no inquiries up to this point, is what's been reported. So I think he's going to end up being one of those players that gets brought in like right before training camp starts.
That or he'll get brought in day 3 or day 4 of training camp after they see some of these teams will have some young wide receivers and they kind of want to see what they got, and then by day 4 they're like, yeah, we need to bring a veteran in here, and they reach out to Des Bryant.
What do you think about the Carolina Panthers as a fit? They just cut Russell Shepard.
I mean,
maybe it's another big wideout across from Devin Funchess.
I mean, I think they need a lot more help at the wide receiver position than Des Bryant.
I'm not going to disagree with you. That's why they went wideout up in the first round.
Yeah. Jerry Jones comes out and says that he thinks Des Bryant will be an asset wherever he lands.
Aw, how sweet of him.
Did you see Jerry Jones said that one thing he regrets was not being able to get Tony Romo and Jason Witten a Super Bowl, that's on his shoulders.
I did see that.
Yeah.
That was during the retirement press conference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty touching, actually.
So touching. Poor
Cowboy Nation.
And then I guess one other big news, I think we hit a little bit on it last week. The Saints running back Mark Ingram is being suspended the first 4 games for the PEDs drug test. Well, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. It was not for PEDs. It was just for a banned substance. So excuse me that I misspoke there. We don't know what the substance was. Apparently, the substance was not on the NFL's banned list if you had permission or something, and he didn't have permission. So, anyways, Sean Payton was asked about it after rookie minicamp. Currently, he says they're not looking for a veteran to come in to replace Mark for those first 4 weeks, but if they were to bring one in, they would bring in none other than
Pierre Thomas.
Adrian Peterson.
I'm just kidding. I saw that. I just wanted to throw Pierre Thomas's name out there and see what you said.
I would love to have P.T. Cruiser back, but don't think it's going to happen. Adrian Peterson, how is he still a thing?
I don't know, man.
And then Adrian Peterson comes out and says, yeah, I'd love to go back to the Saints.
He's going to say that about any team right now. He just wants to get on the field. He knows. He's there. He's at the end of the tunnel. The light is bright. And he'll take any team.
The light is bright. He's like staring right into the light bulb.
I know.
It's over.
His workout videos are pretty impressive, though. Have you seen any of those?
I mean, yeah. I've seen a lot of old dudes work out. Don't mean I want him playing on my football team.
He's just not a good fit in the Saints system.
What's that?
He's just not a good fit in the Saints system. I really thought Carolina was going to go after him because Norv Turner force-fed the hell out of him when he was in Minnesota, and Jonathan Stewart was gone. I just assumed that they were going to bring him in, but they brought in C.J. Anderson instead.
Yeah.
So. Actually, I wanted to talk about Mark Ingram. I saw that, or I read somewhere on Twitter that the Saints were fielding trade offers.
I mean, allegedly.
What do you think about that?
I mean, Mark Ingram's about to be on the wrong side of 30.
I don't know, but does this scare you at all?
Does what scare me?
I mean, the Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara duo was terrific last year. I think I would just be hurt if he were to be traded away.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I'm a Saints fan.
I'd be hurt too, but I mean, let's be real. Mark Ingram only has 2 or 3 years left.
Before he hits a wall.
Yeah. I mean, he's about to be 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I was just looking at the running back market the other day, and the list is so incredibly long, not wrong. It's so long. I can't believe it. There's a lot of good running backs out there yet.
Yeah.
DeMarco Murray, still out there. Jamal Charles, who's also on the wrong side of 30, but I mean he can be a productive player when he wants to. Ryan Matthews, Alfred Morris, Eddie Lacy, if he can cut his weight down.
God, this is like the who's who of terrible running backs now.
It's crazy.
All right. Let me throw this number at you. Tell me if it means anything to you. 498.
498. That sounds like average yards per game on the offense, maybe.
No. Let me add something else to it. See if it makes a difference. 498 days.
Something with Roger Goodell.
498 days since.
I'm lost.
Oh, the listeners. I feel like some of the listeners know and they're screaming it at you.
Come on, Tanner.
498 days since Andrew.
Luck last saw the field.
Close. Since Andrew Luck last threw a football.
Ouch.
498 days.
That's disgusting. It's sickening.
Andrew Luck last threw a football, and he is still not throwing, according to Frank Wright.
So if you're the Colts right now, if I'm the Colts right now, I feel like I'm fielding trade offers. And I'm going to accept it.
Well, who the hell is going to take on the contract that he's got?
Oh, I heard that he was receiving offers before the draft. The Colts were receiving offers, but they shot it down.
I mean, I think Jim Irsay was just saying that. Personally.
I don't know. If I'm a desperate team, I may throw the farm at him if he plays again somehow, but we don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah, that's the thing. If he plays again. Crazy, man. Freaking crazy.
We have some new Thursday night football announcers. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are taking over this year.
No, I'm very disappointed by that.
Yeah, I really liked Romo.
Very disappointed. But yeah, I really liked Romo.
I just don't like Troy Aikman. I think he's trash.
Yeah, he's kind of
He
annoying.
has no idea what he's talking about sometimes. It just mind boggles me.
Yeah.
Vikings DN Brian Robinson has agreed to a pay cut to come back for a 12th season. I wasn't really surprised by it, but I never saw an exact figure of his new salary for the 2018 season. I'm 95% positive it'll be his last.
Yeah.
The Texans have placed guard Jeff Allen on the PUP list. He had surgery on his knee, I think, or ankle or something. He wouldn't have started anyway after they brought in Clemente and Zach Fulton. What else you got? I got one topic.
I think one of the biggest news stories of the week is the new Monday Night Football crew.
Oh, we didn't talk about the Panthers.
Screw the Panthers.
I don't even know who that guy is.
Who?
Weren't the Panthers sold today?
Oh, yeah.
$2.2 billion.
Yeah. They were sold today for a lot of freaking money to an old white guy.
An old white guy.
Yeah. Dave Tepper. I think that was the guy that's pretty much been rumored to buy it for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a hedge fund guy. Just another old rich white dude. But Monday Night Football, man, we got a new crew. Joe Tessitore on the play-by-play, Jason Witten on the color commentary, and Booger McFarland on the field. They're going to do like the Tony Saragusa thing with him.
Crap. I am not convinced Jason Witten is going to be a good PA announcer or whatever.
Oh yeah, and I mean ESPN. I mean they're putting all their chips in there.
I feel like that network is just on a rapid decline, and they can't keep their head afloat.
I mean, and then you saw like Mike Mayock got kind of disgusted that he wasn't considered Who else? Louis Riddick.
Oh, I was gonna say Louis Riddick was the name I saw.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple people that were pretty pissed off that they weren't even considered. Oh, Kurt Warner.
Dude, did you hear that? Somebody asked him about coming back and playing, and he said that he was considering it.
Who?
Kurt Warner.
Okay, well, in that case, let's go ahead and move on to.
I gotta see if I can find that tweet.
No.
I just skimmed it. I think I woke up in the morning and it was last week sometime.
Yeah. There's no chance.
Oh well, I know there's not a chance, but I couldn't even believe that he would consider it.
I think that had to be all in jest. There's no way he was serious.
Chris Mortensen said among those who strongly endorsed Todd Haley to the Browns as offensive coordinator is Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner, who said he'd come out of retirement to play for Haley again.
Yeah. No chance. Anyway, you have anything else?
He's so close to the Hall of Fame, I just don't even know why he would say that. That was really dumb.
That had to be a joke.
Wait, is he already in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Oh, of course.
Last year.
No, you can't. I'm completely just mind boggled. I just don't understand it. I'm not making this up though. Just tweet Kurt Warner retirement or something on Twitter. That'll pop up. Or search it. My last topic I want to talk about. Did you hear about Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson?
No. Oh,
I
don't know if we're thinking about
all
the same
over radio
thing.
stations all over the country.
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. Go ahead and explain.
So apparently, after Lamar Jackson was drafted, I don't know, he got Joe Flacco's number somehow. He is texting him and calling him. No responses.
Yeah, same thing Big Ben did to Mason Rudolph.
That's so unprofessional.
I mean, it's unprofessional, but...
And then I guess the Ravens, even the Ravens organization was calling Flacco, trying to get him in to talk to him at rookie minicamp or something like that. They want to start grooming him, getting them together, talking, and he wouldn't even field any of the Ravens calls. Yeah, it's he's extremely butthurt that they drafted the heir apparent.
He is, but Flacco still thinks that he's an asset to the Ravens, and he still thinks that he is the man or could be the man. And yeah, he's probably hurt that they have brought in his heir apparent. You know, he doesn't see the light at the end of the tunnel for him. And so I get it. You know, football is, you know, it's one of those things, it's fun, it's a game, but it's got a business side to it, and the business side is brutal. And so I mean I'm not hating him for it.
Did you also see they actually did get an interview from him, and when they asked about the Ravens drafting Lamar Jackson, he said that he understands the pick a little bit, because the Ravens' offense is quote-unquote boring and excites no one.
Well, at least he's aware.
And look, honest bets.
And I think Lamar Jackson's going to play this year. I don't think he's going to start, and I don't even know if he'll play at quarterback. But, excuse me. But when you have a player with that kind of talent, you don't just let him sit on the bench. You don't give away future assets for him to just sit on the bench. There's going to be some design plays for Lamar Jackson. Watch.
Oh, sure.
So, anyway, I don't buy into all of that. It is what it is.
I just think it's incredibly unprofessional.
Oh, yeah, it's super
unprofessional. Should welcome him with open arms. He's your teammate, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's my take on it, anyways.
All right. Well, you have anything else?
Oh, that's it.
All right, cool. Well,
I feel like I'm missing something, but I can't think of what it might be.
All right. Well, think about it, because we're about to go do our interview with Jon Ledyard. So y'all stay tuned for that, and then right after that, we will be back to sign us off. So Enjoy the
John will be
interview.
much more fun to listen to than us.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so so here's that interview with Jon Ledyard. Y'all enjoy. Hey guys, Chris Smith here with All Pro Nation. Have you ever wanted to write about sports but don't know where to get started? You can get started right here on allpronation.com, where fans have a voice. Just go to our website, allpronation.com, fill out the Write For Us tab, and you can start contributing about your favorite sports team today. Go to allpronation.com and hit Write For Us. All right, and what is up, All Pro Nation family? We've got a special guest for you today. We have draft guru Jon Ledyard. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you for stopping by. Jon, why don't you real quick tell everybody where they can find you on the internet and follow some of your stuff?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Ledyard, Ledyard, NFL Draft, and my written work, you can see over at F4S Network and NDT Scouting and Pro Football Weekly, and then the podcast, of course, Locked On NFL Draft, 5 days a week. Myself and Trevor Sycamore, we talk NFL Draft year round, talk college football, NFL in general, just have a lot of fun. So if you guys are interested in that, you can check that out on pretty much any website that you subscribe to a podcast on.
Yeah, I'm already a listener, so you got an avid fan in me.
Thank you, sir.
Well, good deal. So I guess we're going to jump right on in. So as you guys know, we've been reviewing the draft that just happened, and we brought Jon in to kind of give us some more deep analysis on what he thought happened. So I guess my first question, Jon, I have for you is, looking at the draft, who are the big winners and who are the big losers of this draft?
Well, I definitely think the Bears, jump out at me as the team that I thought did the best in terms of being able to find talent all throughout the draft and, found guys. I think one of the big themes of their offseason was find players that can help Mitch Trubisky, which is huge, man. I mean, I wish more, whether it's offensive line, skill position players, whatever it might be, you got to find guys that can help your quarterback, build a win around your quarterback. And perhaps most notably, they did that with the new head coach. So, huge moves by the Bears. Now we'll be able to actually see if Mitch Trubisky's any good or not. This will be a year to really watch him closely. Tennessee Titans, only 2 picks in the top 4 rounds, but really made both of them count. Their big holes were linebacker and edge defender. I thought needing a young pass rusher, and they got 2 of the best in the draft at those positions. Traded up to get both of them. I wish more teams would take note of this. When you're a team that is in your window to win, you've already filled out the rest of your roster. It's okay to part with other picks to go get 2 guys who are going to make a big impact. What'd they really give up? A 3rd round or a 4th round? I mean, these are 2 guys that are going to make a big impact. You'd rather have Harold Landry than two average guys, that you're going to get. So I was a big fan of the way that they addressed the draft and the fact that they filled their 2 big needs. And then, there's a lot of drafts I don't really like. I hated what the Raiders did on the first 2 days of the draft. 4 picks that to me were all day 3 guys. That's never good. Bounce back on day 3. I think I love Maurice Hurst, so getting him in round 5 is great. But anybody could have pulled the trigger at that point in the draft. He's clearly one of the best talents on the board. It's just a matter of where you're willing to take the risk with his health. So I didn't really love what the Oakland did, and especially given that Tom Cable's their offensive line coach, and now they've got 2 raw tackles that they took in their first 3 picks. Just not a good way to spend your resources when your coaching staff's kind of proven inept over the years. And so I wasn't a big fan of them, wasn't a big fan of the Steelers, thought they reached in the first round. There were a couple of teams that I just couldn't really get on board with what they did, but the Steelers and the Raiders kind of stand out in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that we kind of talked about. I mean, even my philosophy is if you're in love with the player, then just go get him. But if it's a player is going to be there in round 2, maybe even round 3, I think you wait and you get a better talent. I don't think there's any reason to take a 2nd or 3rd round guy in the first round just because you are absolutely in love with him.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly one of those things, the value differs across the board for different teams and,
right.
Where they see certain players. They obviously had a 1st round grade on Colton Miller, move back, still target him. I think it would have taken him a 10 if they didn't find a trade partner. But, I had a 4th round grade on him. So, so people just see it differently. And, we'll see how his career pans out in terms of determining who is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, while we're here, actually, I'd like to ask you, since you said that you thought that the Steelers reached on the first day, what were your thoughts on the Mason Rudolph selection and Ben Roethlisberger's comments on that?
To me, Ben Roethlisberger's comments were inappropriate in terms of you don't say that to the media. Like, say it to your coaching staff, say it to your owners for sure. You can express your frustration, I think, as the face of the franchise. I think you're entitled to do that. to take it to the media was from where I kind of drew the line. I think he's right about everything he said. I mean, the Steelers were in a position, to be able to help their team. And again, it goes back to what I just said about the Titans. This is their window to win. This is their window to compete for a Super Bowl. Yep. And I think that they need to take that very seriously. And I think Ben takes that very seriously. So I think he's right in what he says in terms of statistically speaking, this doesn't make sense. If you look at numbers across the board, the odds of Mason Rudolph panning out to be the future face of the franchise are slim to none. Since 2000, when the NFL really started to become a heavy passing league, and obviously it's only increased since then. But you look around that time frame, and guys who were franchise quarterbacks that were taken after the first 40 picks, we'll say, the only guys in that range that have really become franchise guys are Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. I mean, you can certainly throw Dak Prescott in there as a possibility. Kirk Cousins you could argue for, but those are your four best case scenarios probably. And Prescott's still very much an unknown after a rocky season last year. Matt Shaw, maybe, if you're down with that, had a couple good years. But if you're looking for a guy who's going to win a Super Bowl for your team, it's not going to happen outside the top 40 picks. So if that's the goal, and it should be for Pittsburgh, wait till Ben's gone, or wait till, or get a quarterback in the first round, something like that. And he's also right in saying that, the Steelers, he said, what did we waste the pick on Josh Dobbs then? Because he might not even make the roster now. And he's right. He's right about both picks being waste. Sure. And so I think ultimately, if you look at it that way, it's not that Mason Rudolph can't, become a starter here and in Pittsburgh and win, a couple games and win a handful of games, but is he going to be the guy, the face of the franchise guy? The numbers show that would be highly unlikely at that point in the draft. So to me, it's honestly, it was a waste of a pick, and a pick that could have helped the team win now. And I understand why that's frustrating for Roethlisberger. He just can't say it to the media.
Yeah. All right. So sticking with the theme, which players were you surprised that dropped in the draft? I know a lot of people were real surprised where Darius Geis, how far he ended up dropping. Is there any other player that you were surprised about?
Yeah, Geis was my number 3 overall player. So,
wow.
I know
nice.
I was super high on him. I know he didn't drop because of talent. I mean, I know most teams had a first round grade on him, but stuff happens where teams heard stuff on draft day, and it was just an unfortunate situation. And the important thing is now that it's on the back burner and 50 something, and he's off the board now, and that he's going to really help a team. He has a chance to be the best running back in this class, so I think, and he landed in the perfect spot. He's going to be behind a great offensive line, very versatile run scheme. I mean, I know that Washington would have taken him in the first round. It was between he and Vita Vea, and they went with, or they went the direction that they did, I think largely because they were going away from those kind of guys. When Vea went off the board, they wanted that defensive tackle. They really wanted to fortify that position. And so going Daron Payne kind of made sense for them. And I think that, again, they were scared too by the stuff that they were hearing. But I think that all that stuff is really water under the bridge at this point. I think that the most important thing is he landed in the perfect position for him, the perfect spot for him, and he's behind an offensive line that can really help him succeed. So, to me, that's what this is all about. And, that's kind of what I tell all these, if any of these prospects ever, hit me up or anything like that, I just tell them, it's about landing in the best spot. That's really what it's about. You can talk all you want. Sure, nobody wants to go in the 7th round, but guys landed in the best spot. So even after the fall, that still happened. I didn't think Justin Reed would fall to the 3rd round, early 3rd round pick. The Texans really lucked out on that one. I thought, there were a number of guys. Some guys fall for health reasons. Like Maurice Hurst, Duke Ejiofor, even going in the 6th round was crazy. Yeah. He was definitely a top 100 talent in this class, and so again, Texans got 2 of those guys, but they still don't have any offensive tackles. So I don't know how they're gonna keep Deshaun Watson upright. But I mean, I think that if you look across this board, Harold Landry falling was another one. You just never expected to see that kind of stuff happen. So it happens every year. And there are always different reasons that come to your attention, usually on draft day, that never got out before that, and you don't know what to trust and what not to. So you just accept the fact that really good players are going to fall, and happens all the time. Miles Jack went in the 2nd round because of stuff that happened. Carl Lawson went in the 2nd round, or went in the 4th round because he had a long injury history in college, and you never know. It's a crapshoot at that point. They can become complete studs, and both of those guys obviously have, and so it works out for some, it doesn't for others, and that's just kind of how the way it goes.
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue into my next question of, do you have 2 more later round picks that you think were a big steal in this draft?
Yeah, I mean, Maurice Hurst is probably an easy one to point
Yeah.
to and say, okay, this is, to me, he was my number 9 player on my board. So I thought that was a huge steal in terms of where they got him, obviously, but it'll all depend. I mean, he never falls if it isn't for the health issue. So,
right.
that obviously has a lot to do with it. I think Tyrell Crosby going to the Lions, what was that, the 5th round? That was a huge steal because he's a guy that can plug and play right away. I mean, I think especially in the run game helps you immediately. And, in pass protection, they didn't do a lot of traditional pass sets, not a lot of 45s or vertical sets where he was at Oregon. But I think that he can learn that in the NFL, a really athletic guy who moves well for a big guy. So he was probably one. I liked a couple of the corners that went on day 3, Nick Nelson and from Wisconsin, and DJ Reed went to San Francisco. I like both of those guys. I thought they were really good picks where they came off the board. Day 3 is always interesting because there's guys that fall there that you're like, well, they're clearly like Josh Sweat. Clearly he's talented enough to go in the top 40 picks at least, but he fell here because there's concerns about his knee long term. If that knee holds up, Josh Sweat's going to be one of the steals of the draft. Maurice Hurst, if his heart holds up, is going to be one of the steals of the draft. So those are the kind of ones that are obvious, I think, but still the ones that are most likely to pan out. Because the reality is a lot of day 3 guys just don't, just the way that it goes, especially as you get into the later portions of day 3. So
yeah,
those two guys really stand out.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, so we can't talk the NFL draft without talking about the quarterbacks. It's literally the biggest position on the NFL team. We had 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round this year. Really, everybody had 6, that they were really looking at if you include Mason Rudolph. So if you had to put money on the table, which quarterback are you betting on in this class that's going to end up having the best career?
I'll still go with Josh Rosen. He was my QB1 going into the draft and still obviously is. And I mean, Arizona's, none of these guys went to great landing spots. It's not like Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes last year where, you have teams straight up that were in the playoffs to go get you and you have good rosters around you for the most part. That didn't happen with these guys. They went to the bottom feeders of the NFL for the most part. And, Josh Allen's in a brutal spot. There's just nothing around him, and he was the quarterback that was the furthest away, in my opinion. So he's just in a really tough spot. I'll believe that one when I see it. I think Sam Darnold is a good chance to be, the franchise guy the Jets want him to be, but they've got to get him some help too. It's another situation where that isn't great to walk into right away. Baker Mayfield honestly probably has the best team around him out of any of those guys, but his coaching situation is very up in the air. I just don't know that you can trust you really at this point. So, I think that you look at Rosen's situation and he has David Johnson, but he also has one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And he's a guy that has had some injuries in the past, so that really concerns me. I think he and Mike McCoy will have an interesting relationship. McCoy's been accused of being too complicated, too in-depth in the past, but I don't think that'll be an issue for Rosen at all. That might have been an issue for Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian and Brock Osweiler in the past, but I think Rosen will really welcome that challenge. How receptive is McCoy going to be to really bouncing ideas off each other and not being the man? If Rosen ends up in Houston or in Cleveland, I don't know that Todd Haley, knowing him from being around Pittsburgh, I don't know that Todd Haley is all about that. And I think it's the reason why he and Ben had kind of a fractured relationship at times. But the best quarterbacks in the game also tend to be a little bit edgy personality-wise, and it's because they have that confidence, they have that swagger. And I think Rosen and I think Mayfield both have that. And so that pushback's healthy. They just need an offensive guy that's willing to accept that. But I still think Rosen's going to have a really good career. I think that, Arizona needs to, you got to get a better offensive line in place around him. That's got to be one of the most critical things that they do over the next couple of years is really addressing that offensive line, especially next offseason, especially when they get to see kind of who plays well and who doesn't. DJ Humphries, they're really trying to give him another shot, and I get it. So that's the key, I think, is that can they build up that team well enough around him, that he doesn't have to carry them every single week, because there's a lot of older players on that team. There's a lot of guys getting near the end of their career. They're kind of in that mode where they need to rebuild, and the rest of the roster really needs to be rebuilt, and now they have their franchise quarterback. Some teams rebuild the roster, and then they go get the quarterback. So the Cardinals chose to get the quarterback first. The opportunity kind of fell in their lap to do it that way. I think they made the right decision, obviously trading up to get Rosen, but now it's about getting the talent around him. So that'll be the onus that's on Steve Keim at this point.
Yeah. All right. So I cover the Saints on SB Nation for Canal Street Chronicles. And let me just tell you, after this draft, the Saints fans went absolutely ballistic. I mean, it started in round one, trading up for Marcus Davenport, and I think everybody was okay with Traquan in the second round. But then we get to the third round, and the third round they take the
fourth round,
and they take the offensive lineman.
Rick Leonard.
Blanket, yeah, Rick
Leonard.
Rick Leonard, yeah. God, I was blanking on his name. I mean, there is an all-out revolt in the city of New Orleans over that pick. So I'm going to share this with a lot of my followers that are big Saints fans. So could you kind of touch on kind of the Davenport and the Rick Leonard pick a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, for Davenport, it's kind of a rough situation. I mean, you get picked in the top 15 and a team traded next year's first to go get you.
Yeah.
You got to basically end up being worth 2 first-round picks. You got to be a star. That's just that's a simple way to put it. It may not be fair, but that's what it is. Davenport's got to be a star. Right now, he's a developmental defensive end that has some nice traits for sure. I think he struggles with pad level. I think that there's aspects of the game in terms of developing moves as a pass rusher that he's going to need a lot of time and work on. So I like Davenport. I thought the first round talk was crazy. I accepted that he was going to go in the first round regardless of what I thought. But to trade 2 firsts for him, yeah, I mean, that's wild. Especially when Brees is going into his last year next year. So that could be your money pick. In terms of going and trying to find a quarterback. If you struggle, that could be a high pick. If you don't, you could still have that pick in your pocket in terms of being able to trade up. Now you've got to get up from the second round to get a quarterback. It's hard to see that happening. So I like the Traquan Smith pick. I thought it was a little high for him, but he went to a perfect spot for him. Very vertical receiver who can get behind the defense, stretch the field a little bit. For a tall, lanky guy, that's a nice trait to have, that legit 4.4 speed. So I like Traquan Smith and his fit in New Orleans. I wouldn't have liked him a lot of other places, but I get it for the Saints. I think he definitely adds something. And they honestly, if they would have stayed at 27, everything I heard, and I really believe they would have taken a tight end. I believe it would have been Mike Gesicki. That was the guy they really wanted if they couldn't move up. And so, they kind of were like, well, we need to find another vertical threat, and that's kind of whether it's tight end or wide receiver. The two are kind of being fused for teams these days anyway. And I think that's what they did with Traquan Smith. Rick Leonard, I didn't think was getting drafted. So to see him go in the 4th round was crazy. That was probably one of the wildest, even that's a day 3 pick. So, but probably one of the wildest picks in the draft for sure. I mean, not that there are really good tackles on the board in the 4th round. Jamarco Jones is still there. I like him a lot. It was also a weird pick just because, I guess you're developing another guy behind. Armstead's been hurt, so I guess you get it a little bit from that perspective. But I don't know. I didn't understand that pick at all. Jamerson's okay from what I've heard. I didn't watch a ton of him. I like Cameron Moore as a nickel corner. Boston Scott's gonna have a role. He's the most Sean Payton type back that was in this draft probably. Just a very typical Sean Payton type player. A little space running back that he can do some things with. Probably do some special team stuff. Yeah, probably going to be a practice squad guy, once Ingram's back off the suspension. So, he becomes interesting a little bit now. And, Will Clapp in the 7th, 245, you're 11 picks away from Mr. Irrelevant. So, at that point in the draft, I thought that was a good pick. He's a guy that was probably going to be available at this point and, a local guy. And so they get him to bring him in and see if they can develop him. But at that point in the draft, you're taking flyers, this draft is going to hinge completely on whether Davenport becomes a star or not. And I just have my doubts. I think he's a ways away.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the trade was a reach. I do, but at the same time, I feel like the Saints team, for the most part, have all the pieces together. And if they felt conviction on a guy, just go ahead and take him, because you're not going to get a dominant pass rusher in free agency. You're just not. If you get one in free agency, it's either because they're old and slowing down, or they have really bad character issues that you really don't want to bring into the locker room. So, it's like finding a franchise quarterback. You just very rarely get a franchise quarterback in free agency. Nobody's as lucky as the Vikings were this year getting Kirk Cousins. So, I don't know.
Right.
I feel I didn't hate the pick. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. And so, and then as far as Rick Leonard goes, anything past the 3rd round, to me, half those guys are out of the league in a couple years anyways. Very few. You have your Tom Brady's, Sharon Sharp. You can rattle off a few Hall of Famers, but for the most part, those people aren't in the league, and so you're taking a flyer on somebody, and I don't know. I think I think it's ridiculous to get bent out of shape on a 4th, 5th, or 6th round pick, personally.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are always going to be somewhat developmental. There's no doubt about it. And you got to keep in mind that where the high value picks were spent. And I think in this situation, that's where most of the concern comes from.
Oh, yeah. Davenport, you're right. Davenport has to be a star or the whole draft is a bust. But this New Orleans, we're used to busted drafts. So it is what it is.
Except last year.
Last year. Yeah. Okay. So, looking ahead to 2019, do you have any players that you're already kind of scouting that you think are going to be some of your favorite players going into the 2019 draft?
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks about the defensive line group. I think it's a really good group. I just started looking at some guys today. Raekwon Davis from Alabama is, going to be a really interesting big name. Joey Bosa, obviously, Ed Oliver, the couple guys from Auburn, couple guys from Clemson. Everybody's going to be talking about those guys. I'm not sure whether those Clemson guys are first-round guys or not. I think those guys are probably the big names. There's a couple wide receivers, bigger wide receivers that I think are going to be interesting. A.J. Brown, the kid over at Texas. Trying to think. There's been a couple. Keneal Henry over at Arizona State. And then I think, the running back class is not going to be anywhere close to what it was. The quarterback class really needs somebody to kind of step out and be the guy. Justin Herbert from Oregon, maybe it's him. I kind of like what I've seen so far of Ripien from Boise State. I think that he could be a guy that emerges with a little bit, if he gets a little bit better this season. So we'll see. It's still pretty early. Everybody's talking about Greedy Williams from LSU is CB1 already. And, he's talented. He also gets beat a lot. So, we'll see. There's a lot that has to play out. This is the absolute worst time of year to be a draft analyst, no matter what anybody says, because half these dudes want to put out takes already. Everybody's putting out their mock. They admit the whole time during the process that they don't watch anybody from that isn't draft eligible. And then as soon as the process ends, they're putting out a big board. How do you do that if you didn't watch any of these guys? So I'm not rushing myself. I'm actually going to put out a board once I've actually seen them, not fake it in the process. But I've started to watch some of these defensive line guys. You do see a lot peripherally when you're watching other guys. You watch games live all year long, and you happen to notice guys for sure. So you have a good idea of who those big name guys are going to be. It could be another good linebacker, good edge pass rusher, good interior defensive line class. The question marks are going to be tackle and quarterback, and it continues to be wide receiver and who can emerge there. And you're seeing a consistent trend now over the last couple of drafts. The defense is way stronger than the offense for the most part. And so, this past class was interesting because you had the good quarterbacks at the top and you had a really good running back class, but the tackle situation, the wide receiver situation continues to be weak year after year. And that'll be another thing to watch for in this year's draft.
Yeah. Tanner, do you have any questions for John?
Well, I think he hit everything we wanted to ask him.
Cool deal. Well, John, we sure do appreciate you coming by and stopping and chatting with us about the draft. One more time, you want to let everybody know where they can find you at?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Ledyard, Ledyard, NFL Draft. Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks, John.
We appreciate it. That was a good conversation. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Take it easy. Bye. All right, and that was our interview with Jon Ledyard. So y'all be sure to go check him out. A lot of good information on the draft. He said some things that I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. He's always got great takes.
Yeah, so
Must follow on Twitter.
Yeah, go give him a follow. Tell him that you're only following him because All Pro Nation sent you. All right, well, I guess that's going to be it for us tonight. So y'all enjoy the rest of your week. We got a bunch of cool shows coming up for you, starting with next week, Power Rankings, how me and Tanner see the 32 teams right now. Spoiler alert, we both have the Eagles at number 1.
Big Vic will be happy.
Big Vic. Sports Greek. We have that that coming up. We have that coming up next week, and then Memorial Day week we have a special show for y'all. You're not gonna want to miss that. That's gonna be really cool. And then we'll be back doing some more rankings in June. So we've got a bunch of cool shows lined up for you guys. Don't forget, if you want to join the staff at All Pro Nation, all you have to do is go to allpronation.com, click right for us. We'll get you hooked up. If you want to start a podcast on the All Pro Nation Radio Network, just send us a message over the Twitterverse. Be sure that you are checking out all our good podcasts, the Wide Men Can't Jump, the Sports Greek podcast, the 3 Count that's going to be launching soon, and the fantasy football podcast that'll be launching in August. Be sure to check all those out on the All Pro Nation Radio Network. When you listen to a show, be sure that if you love it, that you give us a 5-star review on iTunes and tell all your friends how much you love the podcast. If you really, really love us, you can go to allpronation.com and you can donate to keep us going. And be sure to check out all our great content only on allpronation.com. And if you're not following us on the Facebook and the Twitter, you definitely need to be. At both locations, we are at All Pro Nation. You can follow me on Twitter at 318 Chris Smith, and you can follow Tanner at purple_post. And until next week, peace.